How's it going, everyone? Welcome into NOLA Preps Friday Night Live. Spencer Urquhart here with Chris, Dabe, and Joe Halm. Week 5 in the books, guys. It was an exciting week. Some district action there, Catholic League, a lot of close games, a lot of Thursday action on the North Shore. So we'll start with the game of the week, though, Chris. You were on the West Bank for Carr St. Aug. Carr ended up winning there by 3 touchdowns. Tell us what went down in that one.
Yeah, it was quite an atmosphere there. I mean, it was jam-packed 90 minutes before kickoff, and still all kinds of people trying to get in there. And then once it got started, I was really impressed by what Carr did defensively, especially in the secondary. Early on, they had all kinds of pass breakups. Normally, St. Aug's, they've been a high-scoring offense all year this year, coming in averaging over 50 points a game, and they ended up with only 2 touchdowns on offense, and Carr won 42-21. And but Aiden Hall had a pass breakup in the opening possession. Torrance Sanders had a couple of big pass breakups, and one of them in the fourth quarter when St. Aug was still trying to kind of hang in there. Deep pass to Raekwon Williams that in past weeks for St. Aug, that turns into a 70-yard touchdown. He just, yeah, I mean, you see pass breakups sometimes where there's contact between the receiver and the defender. He just jumped up and batted the ball away. I mean, it was like a volleyball player hitting over the net, and so I came away real impressed by what Carr did defensively. Kind of played it up in my game story, and but John Johnson had his usual productive night: 3 touchdown passes, 2 rushing scores, threw for over 300 yards. Trey Garrison ran over for 100 yards, so it really was a good offensive showing. But for a St. Aug offense that was putting up all the points that they were, and coming into this knowing that Carr is the best defense they will have faced this year, Carr really met the challenge, and they did it kind of in a different way than I think what Carr at the moment is known for is that defensive front with Richard Anderson and and all those guys up front. Here it was the secondary really making some great plays. So that was cool to see for them.
For sure. Yeah, I believe the secondary has like 4 Division I commitments there. So yeah, Carr secondary definitely an impressive showing. Yeah, matched up with you mentioned Raekwon Williams and then Miguel Whitley. What was it like watching Carr's secondary go against St. Aug's passing game?
Yeah, there were a couple of plays. There's one play in particular where Bashan Coulon was trying to get it deep to Raekwon Williams. This was in the first half, and by the time the ball got to it, it was kind of overthrown, but there were 2 defenders was bracketing him right tight coverage. They didn't give him much of anything. They did. St. Aug did get a big gain with Raekwon Williams early, the opening drive in the second half. St. Aug actually got down to the 1. Carr stuffed him at the 1. It was 21-7 at the time, so St. Aug's looking to make it a one-score game. Then Carr turns around and goes 99 yards down the field. John Johnson expertly executing a drive, and as Bryce Brown said afterwards, that's a third-year starting quarterback who knows how to run the offense. So I know I came away impressed by the offense or by the defense, but there was a lot of great execution on offense. But I'm kind of used to seeing that. I mean, I've seen Carr play so many times the last few years. You kind of almost expect that out of them.
For sure. And do you see anyone being able to challenge Carr in District 958? I know a lot of people thought St. Aug might be the game where they slip up a little bit, but I know last year they pretty much ran through it.
Yeah, well, one thing impacting St. Aug today, they didn't have uh, their lead running back, who's for whatever reason is Keith Hill. He didn't play today. I forget how many yards he had last week in the opener, the district opener against Easton, but not having him, there are a couple other running backs down, so it kind of became a one-dimensional offense for St. Aug. So I know there's a lot of thought that maybe St. Aug will challenge, be the team that challenges Carr. They also weren't at full strength. Looking at the rest of the district, I think it's hard to ignore Curtis at the moment with the way they've been kind of productive. But they played a close game Thursday night against Warren Easton, so I don't know. It's Carr's district until it's not their district. I can try to name a bunch of schools in the 9-5A and say they're going to challenge, but until they actually do it, I mean, Jesuit played them the closest last year, so maybe they'll do it again. I don't know, but right now it's Carr all the way. I don't know how anybody can think of it any other way until something different happens.
Yes, indeed. And Joe, you were at Salmon Lakeshore on Thursday night last night. Salmon coming with a 35-28 win. What impressed you the most from that one?
Yeah, I think just the way Salmon approached the game, they Lakeshore had three fumbles in the first half. They turned into 21 points. Two of them directly turned into points. Cameron Robinson had a scoop and score. Tyree Burton had a scoop and score. Two of the fumbles came in the red zone. I mean, Salmon really took advantage of things in the first half, got out to a big three-score lead. Lakeshore cut it back a little bit, and then Lakeshore battled a lot of injuries, but they still fought back and made it a game late, cut it to within a score late, couldn't get the onside kick, and Salmon was able to run out the clock. That's a big win for Salmon. Lakeshore beat them last year. It was an emotional game. They had their DJ on the field. The crowd was into it, and after the game, they really talked a lot about how it was just sort of validation for all the work they put in so far. Because district play starts this coming week, so now you sort of flip the page on the season to district, right? So that was really big for Salmon and for Lakeshore. That's a team I'm still really high on, but they had some real key injuries for two-way players. Cal Gegenheimer looks like he's probably out for the rest of the season. He's their best receiver. He's probably their best corner too. Audrey Grow, one of their better running backs, probably the most experienced running back and plays linebacker, got injured on just a open field tackle. He just sort of got hit low because he's a big physical back. The defender took him down low and he didn't get up right away, had to be helped off. I think he'll be back in the not too distant future, but it won't be next week against Franklinton. So Lakeshore has some injury issues now on a team that needed some players to stay healthy if they really wanted to take that next level. So it'll be interesting to see how they do that. But for Salmon, that was the win they needed, right? Coach Shooter always talks about breaking the season up into three parts: pre-district, district, and then the playoffs. And they ended pre-district as well as they could have.
Yes, indeed. Big win there for Salmon. Who are some individuals that stood out to you?
I mean, Jimmy Chansey's still their best offensive player, the running back. He runs violently. He's a really good back. He's a bell cow. He's going to carry the ball 20 times plus a game. He had 100 yards. But Dejon Howard really has stepped up at quarterback. He was their starting free safety last year. He took over this year at quarterback, and he looked good running the offense. He's a dual threat, but they were able to hit a couple of long passes, a couple of long TDs. I mean, that team has speed, they've got some skill, and if that defense plays like they did, because I think that was the thing that stood out, is that defense really swarmed to the ball. They forced those turnovers. Two of those fumbles are my photographer Herb Gomez got a great picture of Kevin Smiles just ripping the ball away in the first half for the first fumble. And I mean, he is just literally in there grabbing at it to get the fumble, and that shows you how tough that unit is. So I think that defensive unit probably is what stood out for me for Salmon because they were able to get the key turnovers against a really good Lakeshore team.
Good deal. You're watching NOLA Preps Friday Night Live with myself, Spencer Urquhart, Joe Halm, and Chris Dabe. Talk a little bit about my game tonight. Brother Martin Rummel, and ended up a surprisingly lopsided score. Rummel 31, Brother Martin 7. The key to the game was Rummel shutting down Brother Martin 5-star recruit Easton Royal, explosive wide receiver, maybe the fastest kid in the whole area, and they were able to do so. He only had one explosive play, a 65-yard touchdown. And outside of that, Rummel controlled the game. Their running game was really strong. Their lead back, Jaden Torrance, had over 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. And, yeah, they just did really well from start to finish. Never trailed. Rummel never trailed in that one. There's a big statement when they had barely lost to Curtis last week to open district play, but now get their first district win. And Brother Martin now 1-1 in district. They had that thrilling win over Jesuit last week. So, and then another District 958 thriller that you were at, Chris. Curtis Warren Easton. Curtis came away with that one 33-29.
Yeah, that one had a lot of twists and turns, 4 lead changes, starting with the last play in the third quarter when Easton scored a touchdown, made it 21-20, and then from there, Curtis got a touchdown, then Easton, Curtis, and then Easton got the ball back, and Curtis made a stop on defense. Jeffrey Curtis with a shoestring tackle on 2nd and 17 with all kinds of open room for the Easton receiver would have gotten a first down, I'm pretty sure for sure. that being a big play, then a sack on 4th down. But Curtis had a couple of long touchdowns and 80+ yards with Gavin Ledet for one of them, and quarterback London Paget for another one. That one was early in the game. The one by Gavin Ledet came in the 4th quarter, right after Easton had taken the lead for the first time. So, it was, J.T. Curtis talked about afterwards just having another one of those 4-quarter games. He knows there's going to be more of those coming in the district, but having one against an Easton team that was able to score, get big plays, score right away. And so Curtis kept having to turn around and kind of do it again, get down the field and score. So after last week where they had that 19 play drive to ice the game against Rommel, here this week they're having to, punch after punch, the two teams going back and forth. I thought it was nice to see Easton have the kind of game that they did against a strong opponent, because they're this is their second year in the 9-5A and they still haven't won a district game, and they've had some tough losses in that stretch. But I got a feeling they're going to come through with one or two this year with those two running backs that they have. Um, I don't know, I'm terrible at names right now for some reason, but Thomas Vaughn
and
and
Terrell
Terrell
Surtain.
Surtain. Yeah. So it's too late at night. Um, so they're speedy as can be. And then the quarterback, Carl Reed, I think he might just be just as fast as those running backs, and they work him in the run game quite a bit, a lot of RPO type stuff. So it'll be interesting to see how they match up against some of the other teams in the district.
Yes, indeed. The other District 9-5A game, the oldest rivalry, Jesuit and Holy Cross. Jesuit took down Holy Cross there 20-12. Man, that one always seems to be a gritty, low-scoring game there. Were you able to see any takeaways from that one, Chris?
Yeah, no, Sully Sullivan, their quarterback for Jesuit, ran for 2 touchdowns. I guess Taylor Norton is still out with injury. I think this is the 3rd week in a row for him. And last week it was the other Manny Vanderway who had to come in and kind of give Jesuit a little spark as they had their little comeback against Brother Martin to take the lead in the 4th quarter before Brother Martin went down and scored. And this time it looks like I think Sully Sullivan had over 100 yards rushing. Looks like they worked him maybe more in the run game than what how they seemed to a week ago against Brother Martin. So, but yeah, that was for whatever reason, that's a game you always expect kind of an odd score. I know at one point I think it was 17-12, which isn't the oddest score, but I guess 12 being a final score for somebody. I guess they didn't make their extra points maybe, but yeah, it was a kind of a low scoring, gritty sort of game that you might expect. And Holy Cross had won the last 3 meetings between those two schools, so I'm sure the Jesuit seniors are happy to go out without, they don't have to graduate without ever beating Holy Cross.
For sure. Yeah, I know that one means a lot to both of those teams. So any other North Shore games that stood out to you this week, Joe?
Yeah, I mean, I think Mandeville getting the win was pretty big. They were down to North Shore in the 3rd quarter, and they were able to come back and get a 2-score win there. I think that was really big for that team. And Covington found itself in a dogfight against Fountain Blue. That was another one where I think, they were struggling a little bit offensively, and then they're able to score 21 points in the 4th quarter and get a win there. Those two teams will meet next week to open 6-5A play. So it was good for both of them to get back on the winning ledger after losing last week. And then I gotta give Pope a shout out tonight. They went over to St. Martin's and did a nice job there, really controlled that game, won 28-12, ran the ball efficiently as they always do. That wing T that Wayne Grubb and Artie Liuza use has really worked well. Dominic Smith had a really nice game. But more importantly for Pope, their defense came up with some big stops late. Interception by Aiden Fairchild at the end of the 2nd quarter was huge. Stopped the St. Martin's drive inside the 5, and then they were able to force 2 turnovers on downs in the second half that was able to allow them to ice the game. So that's a big win for that program as they turn and look towards going on a run in district. They won the district 2 years ago, and I think they've got their eyes on trying to do that again this year.
For sure. Yeah, a few other notable ones here. U High had taken down St. Paul's there tonight. The only North Shore game that was played tonight there. U High won that 36-25. Destrehan a big win over Terrebonne. Terrebonne, I believe, was undefeated coming in, a big district game for the Wildcats. They're able to pull it off 41-28. And then St. James was able to end St. Charles's undefeated season there. Final, I believe, 34-25 St. James. So a big win there for St. James to spoil the party for Wayne Stein and St. Charles, but I'm sure they'll have plenty to look forward to with district play in a couple weeks.
Yeah, there are a couple other games that I noted. Willow beat Sophie B. Wright 50-49. They went to overtime. Caden Thomas got the winning 2-point conversion there in overtime. So nice win for them. And Willow, I think, what are they, 4-1 maybe? Shaw beat De La Salle 28-20. And it's De La Salle. They're 0-5, but I think they're about the hardest 0-5. I don't want to say tough luck. They just play teams tough, and now they're going to get in the district play. I wouldn't be surprised if they go 5-0 in district. Their big game in that district will be Kennedy. And then Country Day put up 62 points against Patrick Taylor. So they got 168 points in their last 3 games ever since their quarterback came back from the concussion. So they talk about having a spread passing offense, and I guess it's certainly showing with all the points that they're putting up. And then Newman beat Riverdale 33-13. Riverdale was undefeated coming in. Newman started the season with losses to a couple of state-ranked teams, and Jake Randall, 110 yards, 2 touchdowns rushing, 13 of 16 passing, 227 and a touchdown. So just like last week, this week it was the Jake Randall show, and I got a feeling that's going to be the common theme for Newman, taking that Tulane committed running back, putting him at quarterback, and he can throw pretty good. Saw them play against St. Charles. He had a couple of nice passes, so I assume he's keeping that up, if not getting even better.
For sure. So that'll conclude our Week 5 talk. Week 6 next week. Any Week 6 matchups that stand out to you, Chris?
I mean, all the District 9 5A ones always do. You got Brother Martin going against Carr, Rummel against Easton, Curtis against Holy Cross, and St. Augustine against Jesuit. I covered that one last year, St. Augustine Jesuit, and Jesuit won that one with a touchdown in the final minute. St. Aug went flying down the field, had gotten scoring range, and just kind of ran out of time. So, but yeah, I don't know that there's any one out of those 4 that sticks out particularly more than the others. Rummel Easton might be interesting. Both teams have kind of had that duo of running backs that they like to work off each other. I think that's got a potential to be Rummel's going to try to keep that a little lower scoring than what Easton might like it to get, but I could see it turning into kind of a high scoring game with a lot of rushing yards.
For sure.
John Ehret plays Riverdale. Looking at 10-5A, 10. A lot of the districts are beginning play next week.
Good deal. What's the North Shore looking like, Joe, for next week?
Yeah, I mentioned Mandeville, Covington. That'll open 6-5A play. That'll be a good game. That's at Jack Salter. So both teams came into that game undefeated last year. It had a big hubbub. It was a 1-score game. I think it'll be a 1-score game again. Probably a little bit more of a defensive battle this time around. Both offenses are sort of trying to find themselves. So I would expect it's sort of a hard-nosed football game. I wouldn't be surprised if it was an odd score, like you mentioned in Jesuit Holy Cross. And then the other big one is Lakeshore Franklinton. I mean, that's a 7-4A opener. We had that game circled on our calendars for a long time. I'll be curious to see what Lakeshore can do with the injuries. Those are 2 really big injuries for them. It affects both sides of the ball. Franklinton's super talented, and I think that probably puts them as a favorite. If you would have asked me if both teams were full, I would have given them, I would have given the home team, which is Lakeshore, the advantage. But with those 2 losses and looking like they're both going to miss that game, I would probably give Franklinton the edge with a senior quarterback, Crane. He's been really good. And then I think a sneaky good game on the North Shore is going to be North Shore Salmon next week. Salmon's got a lot of momentum. That's a 7-5A opener for both teams. And North Shore is going to be, competing really hard because they're at home. Ramon Williams had a bit of a knock late in the game. I'll be curious to see if he's at 100%, he's a lot of what North Shore does. But whenever those two teams meet, it always seems to be just one of those rivalry games where it's going to be a score, and it's going to be decided by a turnover here or a big play there. And right now, if I was a betting man, I'd say Salmon's got those big plays because they were really impressive on Thursday night in terms of just taking advantage of what Lakeshore gave them in key moments.
For sure. Well, that'll do it for this week's NOLA Preps Friday Night Live. For Chris, Dave, and Joe Halm, this is Spencer Urquhart signing off.